Well, welcome. Hello, everybody. I'm here, and you are here. Where are you? Um, Leave me a comment, say hi, let me know where you're watching from. Para todos ustedes, déjame un comento abajo, dime desde dónde están viendo. I'm at home. I am in Dorchester. I'm in our apartment that Jackie and I have been in for, this is our 5th year. And I got Rocco all curled up nearby, settling in for a story. And maybe the baby is asleep. Um, Oliver is going to be 2 this summer. He's a great kid. He is picking up a lot of language these days, and he's a pretty funny guy. And one thing that he's been enjoying doing with all of us wearing masks when we go out is he likes to grab the mask off our face, pull it down, say hello or give us a kiss, and then immediately put it back up and say bye-bye. So that's pretty cute. So I wanted to invite you to join me for a toast to get started. If you have something to drink nearby, maybe raise a glass. Strange times, whatever you're doing to get through your day, get through your week. We're almost to the end of another one. There's no right way to do it. And so it's enough, whatever you're doing. And I think that as a writer, you learn forgiveness. Because writing's really hard, and you have to forgive yourself a lot of messy drafts, and you have to forgive your characters and find a way to understand who they are and from which part of you they came. So being a parent is also a good lesson in forgiveness. So I just wanted to toast with you. These are good times to practice forgiveness for yourself, for the people around you. Cheers. I'm going to get started. This project that I'm working on. Hi, everybody. Hi from Albuquerque. Hi, Auntie Jimmy, Uncle Terry. This project that I'm working on is about language, and it's about the role that words can play when a person is ill. And I started thinking and writing about this years ago when I was working at Boston Children's Hospital. And my job was part of the Artist in Residence program, and I would visit patients and their families and offer to do a creative writing project. Write a poem, write a story, anything that could be an outlet for expression or for enjoyment. And I knew that this work felt valuable, felt meaningful, and I wanted to articulate why that was. It seemed that illness is a time when words can be most difficult to express, but also maybe most important. And as I did that job, I was working there for about 6 years, and I also wound up teaching a class at UMass Boston called The Language of Illness, where I kind of guided students in those questions, reading literature and asking what do creative writers do in this situation when words seem like they might fail. How do they solve that problem through poetry, through storytelling? And as I was trying to write about this work and thinking that it might be an essay, at some point I realized I was also living a relationship with my father, whose health was declining through various medical situations. And I wanted to write about my relationship with my dad. My dad was my first storyteller. He gave me my love of language, always quick to quote Shakespeare, and always quick to encourage me and to motivate me to write. And illness was a part of his narrative too. And we use language differently in dealing with illness. And so this seemed to me to be complementary to the work that I was doing intellectually, and then in my own life, how did that apply? So this project essentially is a collection of stories that are about language and about illness and about lessons and about love. I have two reasons that I wanted to do this reading tonight, and one of them is not that I'm done. I am not. I've been writing this and living this for years now, but it feels like climbing a mountain, and it feels like where I am now, I just got through the tree line. Like I can finally see the shape and the scope of the project. And yet most of the really skilled work is ahead. But that's exciting to me. And so the one reason that I did want to do this and share this with you, despite the immediate anxiety I felt when I created the event, was because I want to feel that motivation, but also that that sense of accountability to you, my friends, my family, my readers, because I do see the work ahead of me, and I am excited to get after it, and especially having a small child. I need that kick in the pants. And the second reason, I guess, is that I believe in storytelling, and I believe in the good that it can do and the kind space that it creates. So thank you for your kindness in showing up tonight to hear these stories. And I'm just going to read you a few fragments from the work I have so far. And it's not, I've written something like 20,000 words on this. It's a decent amount of work put in already, but really I feel like I've been searching for it. And now I see more or less where I'm going. So I'm going to read a couple of memories from childhood, establishing some of my relationship with my dad, also one with my mom. Hi, Mom. I'm also going to read a short kind of introduction to the kind of the neighborhood and to Boston Children's Hospital and what it was like to go to work there, and some of the questions that I confronted myself with in doing this work there. The working title of this project is Words Are Vital Signs. So I'll read, I timed myself, it's about 30 minutes, and then if you'd like to leave a question, I'll see if I can figure out how to get them out of the comments section at the end. I'm 8 years old, 9, 10, and Dad says, let's go, nature walk. The Eloise Butler Bird Sanctuary is a wilderness of trees and brush with walking trails we imagine were blazed by native peoples when this was their sanctuary, when they were birds. Through the elm and the birch, Dad cuts a tall, trim figure with long legs and a dark beard. He is bird-like. It's winter, so the trails are slick with tamped-down snow. I wear snow pants and throw myself down the small slopes like slides. Winter is a playground, soft and forgiving. We find a copse and sit down on a downed tree trunk that seems to have been waiting for us to rest. Suddenly the woods are quieter without our footsteps and direction. It's just our breath, then heartbeats surface. Dad removes a red apple from his jacket and a red Swiss Army knife. He grips and slices between his thumb and fingers, eclipsing 2 half-moons, one for each of us. I've never seen him cut an apple like this. The blade comes right up to his skin without cutting. It's delicious. After we eat, Dad asks me, "What do you hear?" I listen and report. A woodpecker above our heads, the fabric of our jackets rustling, a squirrel climbing tree bark. He's teaching me to pay attention, to observe through all my senses. Before we go, he reaches into a different pocket and withdraws a small bag of birdseed. We scatter it on the white snow, a kind of offering to the birds before we go. And this is the intro to the hospital, and there's an epigraph from Shakespeare's Sonnet 15. I give you the whole sonnet. When I consider everything that grows, holds in perfection but a brief moment, that this huge stage presenteth not but shows, whereon the stars in secret influence comment. When I perceive that men as plants increase, cheered and checked even by the selfsame sky, vaunt in their youthful sap, at height decrease, and wear their brave state out of memory. Then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you, most rich in youth, before my sight, where wasteful time debateth with decay, to change your day of youth to sullied night. And all in war with time, for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new. I smiled to myself while I was doing that because I'm looking directly into my own face, and it's really awkward. Okay, great. Boston Children's Hospital, where I lead creative writing projects with patients and their families, has been ranked the #1 children's hospital in the country year after year. It's located in the Longwood Medical Area, home to other world-class hospitals and research institutions, a whole neighborhood that hums at the timbre of excellence. Out on Longwood Avenue, credentials swing from every neck, and the initials after staff's names practically precede them as every body leans forward towards what's next. Doctors checking emails as white lab coats billow behind, nurses and sky blue scrubs hustling on and off shifts. Parents scurry their lagging children along, weave strollers through crowds and over curbs. Arriving at Longwood must be a new physician's dream. Surrounded by fellow strivers and careerists, bodies set in motion by insatiable intellect, the quotients soar. The campus buzzes with conversation and curling queues at Starbucks and the lunchtime rush at Be Good, where staff work with athletic precision, slinging quinoa bowls with a smile. The campus is acceleration. Researchers zooming by on bicycles and student fellows in maroon scrubs streaming from the Green Line trains. The old-timers don stethoscopes like to fill in. Surgeons wielding cell phones as scalpels when they speak. Neighborhood shuttles sustain this small city that never really sleeps, exchanging the starters for subs, pumping fresh blood and caffeine into the system. This is not the pastoral idyll of a wellness center. These are urban hospitals, international beacons for hope and healing, the elite business of medicine. And whew, everyone is working so hard to ensure your confidence, to communicate. Everything will be okay. So this is the message as you step inside the hospital, greeted by smiling volunteers and reception staff. Behind them, a 20-foot interactive HD screen presides over the hospital lobby with sensors that read and respond to the movements of passerbys. This is the first screen you are presented, your first option to divert. And it is fun, so you dance like Tom Hanks on the piano keys. And speaking of, there's a musical staircase just steps away, which leads to a state-of-the-art radio and TV studio funded by the Ryan Seacrest Foundation. Inside, patients create shows that are frequently crashed by visiting celebrities and broadcast internally throughout the hospital. All of this to say that this isn't your grandparents' hospital, which resembled illness in jaundiced walls and sterile halls. Here is the soft serve counter with fresh fruit toppings. There is the food court with slices from Pizzeria Regina. Around the corner, find the luminous fish tanks, the kinetic MIT sculpture, the waiting lounge with colorful cushions and curved couches. In parts, Children's Hospital feels as much Wonka as Ward. But this is a hospital. So you will also see people in pain, You will see a mother holding a baby with an NG tube in its nose, a teen with a bald head and cheeks puffed by steroids, a father who has been up all night, an Arab woman cloaked in black, looking out from her perspective, any parent looking out from their perspective. The visitor wonders, what's their prognosis? What's mine? Better to recognize this person's reality or to look away? And perhaps you can choose to look away from everything that reminds you where here really is down at the nameless floor. It can be a kind of strategy, looking only as far as you need to get to where you're going, looking without seeing. Perhaps the less you see, the less you're actually here. The hospital wears its history in proud window displays and plaques. Portraits of medical innovators line a Walk of Fame hallway, and even parts of the original buildings are intact. See the marble staircase used by Sidney Farber himself. Boston Children's wears its history like badges on a lab coat, contributing to the pervading confidence that since it has survived all it has seen, so will you. And when staff at Children's Hospital talk, they can seem to echo the institution itself. Confidence, diagnosis, and talking points honed from an elite history. Whether you're receiving directions to the lab or getting the results of an MRI, the words roll off professional tongues with proficiency. And of course, yes, you want your doctors to have this authority. These time-tested metaphors and verbs, no doubt. Still consider how all that fluency can leave a patient or a visitor feeling in some ways usurped, their own language absent, or struggling to keep up. Removed from the greater body's bluster, each hospital room is a vital chamber unto itself, a quiet quadrant within the hive, constantly remade in the image of each patient who occupies it. The rooms are essentially the same: the big hospital bed, mounted TV, private bathroom, a monitor, a window, a whiteboard. But you never step into the same room twice. Each patient repapers the walls with greeting cards, photos, watercolors. The guest bed becomes a storage for gifted toys, a snack pantry, a temporary home office for mom. Even when patients choose not to decorate their room, perhaps in the hopes of a short stay, there in the heart of the room is the patient herself, plucked from normal life, where she'd be in a school desk or on a lacrosse field, arguing with a sibling or practicing for a recital. She is resituated in a position of unwanted prominence, relabeled as patient, perhaps feeling impatient, unconsciously attending to the growing split between who she knows she is, what her life is, and what her life is now, running her own set of tests to survey how she's changed by being in this place, in this bed. She is in the best possible hospital. She is fortunate, and she is unfortunate. She is afflicted, and she is immensely privileged. She is all alone, and she is surrounded by enthusiastic support. This is illness, rife with questions and contradictions, attended to by the healthy, but perhaps best understood and articulated by the ill. How to articulate it? How to bring the healthy inside its experience, breaking down the barriers of isolation in a dosage that they can tolerate, can go up from. How to transform the experience of illness into one that invites new language, instead of words failing or reaching for an easy, everything will be okay. Do these easy phrases replicate too, through our language? What kind of language is meaningful when meaning is most needed? Where are the nutrients in words? When I arrive outside the hospital entrance, I look up at the windows of the oncology floor where I'm headed. Unfailingly, some patient has written a message about strength in their window. Which comes first, the strength or the determination to write it? Every time I walk through the hospital doors, I carry these questions inside me. I go up to the floors, drop the questions, meet each child, offer a project, and if they choose to, we write. Let's go for a moonwalk, Dad says. So we go. Bundled up, hats, gloves, scarf that tickles my chin. Is this what a beard feels like? Here, Dad hands me the flashlight, a chunky yellow box with a handle, so that it feels like I'm exploring a dark cave, a new planet. We go out onto Joppa Avenue. I know the night sky over my house, the placement of the stars, Polaris, over our chimney. Through the tree branches, the moon, round as a white hockey puck, it's puckish, a mischievous pendant ever over us. Here, Dad puts his gloved hand over mine and shows me how to swerve the narrow flashlight beam back and forth over the sidewalk. The result is that, even in pieces, we can see the whole more clearly. We walk past neighbor houses, known and unknown, the one where we joke that Boo Radley lives, the owner's son, rarely seen, the Jennings driveway basketball hoop where I play every position for Jordan and the Bulls, the Ashes house, a family name, but it seems to me named for Noel's ever-present cigarette. Around the corner on 39th Street we go, and down toward the park. At the top of the hill, Dad stops, tells me to turn off the flashlight, and I do. But the night doesn't darken, we've just switched light sources. Now moonlight relights the evening in varying grays and dark greens, like the cloaks of magic creatures. The hill slopes snow-covered before us, and I'm seeing now through memory the location of a jump that Brian and I built last week, the one I was too scared to go over in my sled, so I jammed a hand down in the snow and swerved just over the edge. Farther toward the basketball court, where the old playground used to be. It was all wood frame, bolts, metal poles. Dad and I played Billy Goat's Gruff when I clopped over the wooden bridge's rickety slats, and he crouched below and bellowed like a troll. I got a splinter in my hand. I cried. At home, I sat in the bathroom as Dad lit a match and burned the ends of tweezers. He blew on them, knelt down, held my thumb in his hands, and pulled the splinter out. Then he showed it to me so I could see how small it was, that it was really out. The wind picks up, whistling the bare tree branches. From the top of the hill, Dad blows into his hands, and I do the same. We make our own heat. Farther still, though covered, I see the blanketed baseball diamond, and in my mind's eye I imagine myself getting bigger, the feel of the aluminum bat in my hands as I make contact, ringing into my shoulders. Maybe next summer I'll drive it farther. Maybe one day enough to reach the hill, or, impossibly, over it. I can see that too. Years later, I'll teach my writing students to practice seeing through both memory and imagination. I'll remember standing on the sledding hill with Dad. If you feel stuck, I tell them, try changing the light source. Okay, Dad says, turning the flashlight back on. Let's keep going. Our feet find their grip on the hard-crusted snow, muscles back to life. Dad shines the flashlight in front of us, swaying the beam side to side, light to lead us home. My mother has other kids. She's a teacher in St. Paul. Her students receive many labels across the years, but mostly we refer to her work as special ed. She teaches them to tie their shoes, helps them answer basic questions like, what is your phone number? They practice organizing by shape or color, maybe light math, determining how much an item costs. These kids of my mom have other parents, and are as loved by them as I am by mine. And I'm also aware that some of them come from homes where some things are in abundance and some things are lacking. When I visit my mom's classroom, a lot reminds me of my own school. Art projects and ABCs on the walls, shelves of books and nooks to read, the blackboards, the calendars, the cubbies. When I observe my mom teaching her kids, her other kids, I'm reminded of how my own teachers, read together, encouragement, and speaking in the deliberate way of elementary school teachers, each word arriving long and loud like a billboard. My mom is young. She has curly brown hair to her shoulders and an easy smile that she gives generously. Her pretty eyes delight in her students. She loves them, and I see that this is special. Even as my teachers engage me, praise me, I don't need their love, and so it is. When the odds are against you, when the majority count you out, when it's easy to count yourself out, when every word is a struggle and every leap one of faith, it's love that paves any path ahead. Out of yourself, out of your fear, out of the box someone else would put you in. My mom and her classroom look like any other, it's true. But every time I visit, I come away aware of another ingredient, her enduring love for her students, the soil from which everything that grows, grows. I'm standing in the window of the oncology floor playroom, trying to finish notes from my shift at the hospital for the floor's child life specialist, who will review them the next morning before her rounds. The moon's out, and I've stayed too late because I was trying to finish a story with a 10-year-old who kept getting sidetracked, as 10-year-olds do, wanting to tell me random things and needing the nurse to come stop the beeping machine or bring him a blue Powerade. We got to the end of the story and he said thanks, but I'm not sure if he's happy with it or if it's just another part of his day, another check mark in the schedule. I try to sum up the interaction in a few words that will be useful for my report. Wrote a story with a patient about a tiger loose in Boston. It wanted to eat everyone. Asked the patient why. The patient said the tiger was lonely and needed friends. The patient seemed pleased at the end, but tired. The playroom has big windows that look out over the front entrance of Children's Hospital onto Longwood Avenue. From up here, you can see all the comings and goings at the hospital, and it reminds me that people do go, as I will shortly, while others don't. Below the windows are cubbies stocked with toys and books, which are wiped down with disinfectant day after day by diligent volunteers. The volunteers are pre-med and nursing students from the nearby colleges, as well as retirees who've come to give back. They are passionate about cheering up the patients. Everyone wants to cheer up the patients. The volunteers go through rigorous training and commit to a strict schedule, so they want their work to be meaningful. We all want our time to be meaningful. A smile might make it so, or to feel that we made the child happy, however briefly. Yet meaning has many measurements, including passing disinfectant over the plastic kitchen set and putting the pieces back in order for Monopoly, including asking for a description of the tiger. How big is the tiger? How does it feel to touch its fur? Now, here is this tiger story, and here is this patient, tired and mildly pleased. Is he the tiger? Is the story a kind of companion, or am I? Did we heal anything, or merely pass the time? I stay a little longer in the now empty playroom, watching the people come and go below in the moonlight. I try to see with memory and imagination. There's a tiger loose somewhere in the city. No, somewhere in the hospital behind me. I want to find it. I have to. And I'm going to close with something really short. In a lot of ways, one of the questions that I'm asking in the work is, between the optimism of positivity and a hope for endurance and life to continue on. Rebecca Solnit has a great line about illness. Says that illness is a rupture in the narrative from which we have to sew back the story of who we are and where we're going. I totally got that wrong. Sorry, Rebecca Solnit, but the idea is there. Because it is a rupture, it is a break in maybe something we thought was linear or a path that we thought we were on. And anyways, as I write the story with my dad, last year around this time was when he got his last diagnosis of having cancer in stage 4, and because he'd had cancer before and he'd had heart issues before, and he'd come through them, and we knew he had good doctors and good care. We wanted to stay positive and stay optimistic. When he called to tell me about the diagnosis, he said, very characteristic of him, I'm calling to make you, I'm not to worry you, but to make you aware. And I said to him, Dad, it's not worry, it's love. And I think that I, wanted to embrace the language of optimism and of positivity. But I think also I felt that this was a last chapter, or could be a last chapter. And in some ways, in my writing and in my language, needed to find a space to prepare for that, or to record what felt important to record in that time. So this last September of last year, my dad turned 70, and he was in Minnesota and I'm in Boston, and we had a FaceTime coffee hangout, and conversation was just the backbone of our relationship all my life, and conversation that went in any direction. Really, that I think was the basis for a creative lifestyle and a life as a writer and a storyteller. And so after our FaceTime, I wrote down this last thing that I'm going to read, and it's I don't know, it's a poem, it's just a little ditty, but it was one of the kinds of things that I was recording along the way, and thankfully and gratefully, I was able to get home and be with him in December when he passed, and be with my family, my mom and my brother, and spend a couple of days with my dad in the hospital room. And there wasn't a lot of language at that point going back and forth between us. I don't think there needed to be. But I did get to read this to him from out of my notebook that I had with me, and just kind of reflect and share back a piece of my language that I was creating from this. And he knew about this project, and got to hear some early drafts from it. So I'll read this. It's called FaceTime with Dad on his 70th birthday. And then I'll be done reading, and I'll see if I can see some comments on here, and maybe my tech support will be able to help me see if there's, if you have a question, anything about the writing or the project, or just about life. You want to hang out for a little bit, we can hang out afterward. This is called FaceTime with Dad on his 70th birthday. Face to face, we smile. Irish eyes alight with love. We say, I love you. We talk of gratitude. This has always been our conversation, our never-ending story, veering into evenings and new ideas. Love is our willingness to digress. Love is our devotion to listen and understand or try. Knight errants know, to err humanly is divine. Fresh flowers perch behind you on the windowsill. Rocco presses his paws into my side. The coffee is cold now, but we go on. This is all that needs to be right now. This is us. This is good. Okay. Let me see if I can see what's going on in the comments. I see little things popping up on my screen, little notes. Thank you. I feel the love. I love the love. I'm looking at myself now live. We're through the looking glass. Are you able to see any comments? I just see some nice hellos. Are you able to see any comments? I just see some. Hi Sarah and Nil. Hi Candelaria. Hi Auntie Nancy. Hey Ursula. Hello to Albuquerque. Hello to Arlington, Virginia. Hello Egan, Minnesota. Hello friends. Saludos Colombia. Hello New Hampshire. Hello Brooklyn. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I see one question from Megan in New Hampshire asking if I'm writing about current experiences and the current environment, the pandemic, I assume you're referring to. No, I kind of, I had a sense of this project prior to the pandemic. I think some of the reflections apply to it. This is something wild altogether, and different. Anyways, long answer, but the pandemic's too big, and we're still in the middle of it. What I'm doing in terms of right now is just trying to jot down notes about what our daily experience and what our daily life is like. Sometimes just a few lines in my journal. And to me, that feels important because I just feel like, there's a lot we don't know, but there's a lot that we knew and could see coming. And I think something that, history gets delivered to you in a package, but the perceptions and the experiences of people who live it can be so much more nuanced and complicated. And anyways, no. Long story. Hey Canada, what's going on? Thanks, Mom. What do you miss most about working in the hospital? From my colleague. I miss my colleagues so much. I follow you guys on social media, and I'm just like your #1 fan. I listen to all the music therapy videos, and I go and visit a lot of Sylvia's murals out in the world, and so I miss my colleagues a lot. And I think, I really struggled with the work when I was there, and I loved it. Um, and I think my favorite part was surprising people because nobody expected the artist to be there, and few people expected to meet a writer at the hospital, and then to write something, and then maybe to write something that they loved, and that put into words maybe something they knew they felt but they hadn't expressed yet, or something that they hadn't really gotten around to expressing. And I mean, that was awesome. And those days, those were the days before we had a car. Those were the days that I would come home on the train, 40-minute, 50-minute trip, green line to the red line, and I'd just float the whole way because I knew I did a good job, and and I knew the work mattered. So I had to figure out how to tell it. Is it cathartic to read? I was so stressed about this. I mean, I don't know. I just get that way. Um, it feels good. I mean, that's why I wanted to do this, is because it's motivating. It's really motivating, and the blood's pumping. And it's been so hard with sleep schedules here. It's been crazy. So it's been hard to get any regularity in my schedule, but maybe things are getting better. and and I want to push now because, like I said, I do feel like I've come through a certain tree line. I was just writing this and not sure where I was going for a long time or how it was going to fit together. So I just made my first outline, and I'm really pumped to to work on that. Are any of the lines cathartic to read? No. Like, there's a lot of, oh, I need to change that. I did some improv. I need to fix that. No. But it feels good to read. Thanks, Lou Ball. Yeah, great. Oh, hi, Jude. Thank you, Jude, so much. And thank you, Stephen, his God. Thank you, Seiko. Yeah, Julia, you use different words about the what illness does to the narrative, hijacks the narrative, seizes the narrative, steers us off of our anticipated path. I mean, great. And I think there's so many great verbs, and it's what I notice at the hospital a lot of the time, and what I notice with some of my students at UMass is that there's a lot of reaching for the same verbs. Battle, illness as a battle, and as a kind of fight that must be won. Susan Sontag has a whole book about this, about the metaphors of illness, and so I always challenge at least my students to kind of walk that back and be certain with the metaphor that they were making, and just make sure that it was their own, and to understand how the language might shape the experience, or their attitude about the experience, or their expectations for the experience too. Great. Have I considered children's books? I got a manuscript that I've had in a drawer for 7 years. Not a book, but a book, like a book for little kids. God, it's a whole other field. I don't know how to break in. I got a lot of notes. I actually have journals from when I would write with the kids. Sometimes they'd want to write and I would just be sitting there making up poems and stories, and I have those journals in our closet, and I want to go back to them. How do I keep my optimism? Where do you draw positivity? Um, well, a lot of it's from my parents. And I wrote that piece I shared with you about my mom was just the kind of the love that she brought to the classroom and to our kids. And so from both of them, and also just from my community of artists and writers. Um, I wrote a piece last year about artists and writers being my map makers, and community workers and activists and people who really do the difficult and the creative work of radical hope and radical love. There's so much love in those communities, and I just feed off of that, and a lot of it's in the language. What were my favorite readings and writings from the Language of Illness curriculum? Maybe the most influential ones. Well, we always had a fun time with The Fault in Our Stars, and I love that novel. I know it blew up, and so everybody has an opinion about it, but I thought it was great. Um, Sarah, that's a great question. Let me answer with this. The Aquarium by Alexander Hyman, a New Yorker essay that really framed this idea that words don't fail when people are ill. We kind of let them fail us, and we reach for whatever's easy or at hand because it's hard. But he goes through an experience that he writes about where he says, actually, we had an abundance of language. Language from the hospital, language from the people on our floor, language from our own story, language from our child and children. And so um, dealing with and trying to stitch together the narrative of that experience, this idea of there being actually an abundance of language from which to draw from. That was really powerful for me to think about. And I used that essay and the only two nonfiction pieces that we read, because the rest was all from literature. But we read that essay and we read Virginia Woolf's essay on being ill, in which she writes about illness being this undiscovered country that actually kind of liberates our expression in some ways. The police of health are off duty, and we can say what we really want, and we can make sound into meaning. Those two essays were really influential for me. Thanks, Natty. Thanks so much. Are you writing or reflecting on student dialogues you had in the class? Yeah, a little bit. It's in my outline, but I haven't written into it too much at this point. Yeah, let's see. I know it's Jared. Thank you. It's a great point about the power to connect meaningfully through screens. And I just read a piece in maybe in the Boston Globe about I don't know, it was on the internet somewhere about someone having to say goodbye through a screen. So thank you, Sarah. Great. I did see the tomfoolery video. Yeah, the accent was nice. Yeah, 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 and that's part of what's creepy about it is that it's told like a children's story. So yeah, children's stories can be really subtle vehicles to hide powerful messages and stories about the world and good and evil, all that. Um, okay, um, I'm I'm really grateful for your comments and your support. Thank you. It's great. Anybody growing a quarantine beard or armpits. So I've got this idea. I want to have a day where we all get clean, shave our faces, shave our legs, whatever you want to shave, and make a donation to your state or local fund to support undocumented peoples who don't receive the tax benefits and don't receive the funding right now. Coming soon, coming next. Hey, if you want to hear me again, I'm going to be reading next Friday evening as part of a lineup of poets and writers hosted by Porter Square Books, which I think just won a national award as one of the best independent bookstores in the country. The reading is for an anthology that I was published in called the Welcome to the Neighborhood Anthology. It's all writing, creative writing on the topic of neighborhoods and community. And a poem that I wrote years ago during Snowpocalypse, dedicated to the Boston Yeti, was picked to be included in that anthology. And so not only is that a book that I'm in, but I get to be part of this reading next Friday night. So I'll post about that on Facebook also. And good idea about the support. Thank you. Beards are itchy. Yep. Thank you. Now I've been looking at my face for the last hour. Do you want to hand me Rocco? You guys want to see Rocco before I sign off? Okay. Me Rocco. Thank you, Nola. You're the best. I know, Lou, I can't see you. Rocco. Rocco's living his best quarantine life. He's got all his humans around. Ollie loves taking him for walks. Ollie loves yelling out, Rocco, Rocco. Ollie loves giving him kisses. Rocco loves stealing food from Ollie. We just learned that our upstairs neighbors can hear every time that Oliver yells, Rocco, Rocco. Ciao, thank you, good night. Thank you very much. Is that a Jackie cocktail? That's a great question. So I would say in the 5 years that we've lived here, we've had like one bottle of alcohol in the house at any given point. That ended like a month ago. Jackie went to town, and now we've got like a full bar in the place. Anything you want. She's legitimate. So no, she was putting Ollie to sleep tonight. So this is just a pour, a simple pour. Thank you, Jared. Hey, Taylor. Ciao, Candelaria. Okay, my time is up. Apologies to Matt Damon. I love you guys. Thank you very much. And keep in touch. I want to see your faces next. I love you. Bye.